Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
This is Bazaar Morning Call, live from the CNBC TV18 headquarters in Mumbai.
सत्ता का खेल तो चलेगा, सरकारें आएंगी जाएंगी, पार्टियां बनेगी बिगड़ेंगी, मगर ये देश रहना चाहिए, इस देश का लोकतंत्र अमर रहना चाहिए। 15 अगस्त का दिन कहता आजादी अभी अधूरी है, सपने सच सोना बाकी हैं, रावी की शपथ न पूरी है। कलकत्ते के फुटपाथों पर जो आंधी पानी सहते हैं, उनसे पूछो 15 अगस्त के बारे में क्या कहते हैं। ये शब्दावली पर ध्यान दी। हास्य रुदन में, तूफानों में, अमर असंख्यक बलिदानों में, उद्यानों में, वीरानों में, अपमानों में, सम्मानों में, उन्नत मस्तक उभरा सीना, पीड़ाओं में पलना होगा, कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा।
Well, an era has ended and no two ways, one of the tallest leaders of our times has passed away. It had to happen, a full life of 93 and of course a very emotional and a life full of very important successes.
Yeah. And, you know,
I can remember so many speeches in Parliament from 1998
yes,
to 2003.
Exactly.
And one of them still rings very, when it was more a canvassing time, he said, वोट एक ऐसा तीर है जो आपकी बाण से निकल गया तो फिर आप उसे बुला नहीं सकते हो, जरा सोच के आप चलाइए. I mean, that was a nice way to have an election canvassing.
You know, first time, when this is the first time when a politician has died, and I mean, I literally had tears in my eyes. 1996, when Mr. Vajpayee lost that, that government lasted for 13 days. I could not vote. Of course, I was 16 at that point. But poetic justice, 1998, my first vote, curious to vote. Sushma Swaraj was my Lok Sabha candidate. Of course, she won. And Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. 1998, with double vigor, go out and vote for him. And, of course, just unparalleled orator, I mean, and a great statesman.
Freedom fighter also.
Great statesman.
Yeah, and also, unparalleled wit and humor, right? I mean, that's something that really stood out. I was, remembering some of the anecdotes. In 2004, when they lost to the UPA, somebody asked him, Vajpayee ji, ye kaise hua? He said, unko bhi nahi pata ye kaise hua, referring to the UPA. So, I mean, that was the kind of wit and humor with which he lived his life, I guess.
Yes.
Well, actually, I think the most important part of Mr. Vajpayee is that he is the last of the freedom fighters who became Prime Minister and died. Now, well and truly, that generation is over. That is why I think his end marks the end of an era. We don't have any more people who also saw the freedom fight. Look at the poems that he is writing about Kolkata on the night of 15th August. So, I mean, obviously, he was at that time old enough to understand that freedom brought with it so many problems. So, that perhaps is the most important facet of Mr. Vajpayee's passing away.
Sometimes,
the era ends.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, you realize that when things are gone, like there's a picture now of Mr. Vajpayee with Mr. Kalam. Of course, there was two-year period where Mr. Kalam was there, and of course, Mr. Vajpayee was there.
He was their president.
He was the president.
Yeah,
Mr. Kalam was the president, and Mr. Vajpayee was the prime minister. And you just feel, what a great era it was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, of course. Well, today actually, if it means anything at all, the Asian markets are in the green, and so are Wall Street cues as well. It looks like at the moment the Turkish crisis has been put behind because Turkey lira has rebounded. But the more important cue today is the talks between US and China that seems to have restarted or will restart very soon. Now, I just want to put one thing on the table. Does it look like 70 is the new 69? So is the rupee over and done with the adjustment? My own sense is that's not done. Because we were not falling only because of the lira. We had an inherent trade deficit issue as well. And therefore, when the market resumes on Monday, we may still see a mild depreciation bias and fall even in bonds, because a lot of people who took long positions in the rupee, how do they take the long positions? They buy some shorter term paper. So a little bit may be left. It's not that 70 is the new 69. It probably is a little closer to 70.5 or thereabouts. So there will be that depreciation bias. Still we get a number that says we are not at 3% current account deficit. That is going to be an important niggling worry. The second negative is that, when Asian markets and Wall Street are rising because there is a trade peace, that there is a likely tariff peace, we will be underperformers. Because we were anyway, outperformers when the trade talks were going, when the trade war was going on. We are not in the part of the supply chain. So those two will be, not so positive for us. Well, it's a very green Wall Street index and a reasonably green Asian index. We may be in the green, but we don't have to be as green as those countries, because that is not our problem. We were never part of the supply chain.
Okay, well, for now, I think the market is still perhaps in the grip of the bulls, because if you map what has happened this week, I mean, give and take all the volatility, the market is flat.
Yes.
The mid-cap's actually up. The mid-cap index is up almost about 0.5%. So that just goes to show the kind of, resilience that we have seen.
There is a big technical factor there, but I just want to add one thing. When a currency falls, the economy should do well.
Yeah.
Actually, imports become
that.
expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that the market's not negative.
Yeah, you have been saying that for a while. Anuj, morning. If you look at the constituents of this week, you'll notice that there are new leaders, right? I mean, Pharma has done so well. Sun Pharma is up 12%. IT has done so well this week, yet again. You think this could be the trajectory now, new leaders emerging in this market?
Oh yes, Sonia. Before that, of course, it is Parsi New Year. So let's wish all our Parsi viewers a Happy New Year. Look, I have slightly different view here because if you take a look at what's happened this week, the developed versus emerging markets, the MSCI Asia ex Japan this week is down 4%. MSCI Emerging Market Index is down 4%. Dow Jones is up. Nikkei is flat. MSCI India is down 2.2%. Of course, we're now taking it all the markets in dollar terms for ease.
Okay.
So that way, there's a bit of a dichotomy playing out. In India, of course, Nifty IT has done well and very well because of the rupee tailwind. The Nifty is minus 0.4%. The Nifty Bank is minus 1%. IT is up 2.5%. The only internal where it makes me a bit nervous is it would have been fine if the mid-cap index was up 0.5%, but along with that, if the Nifty Junior was also in the green. The fact that Nifty Junior is down 1.2% and mid-cap is up 0.5% is telling me that, that there's a bit, perhaps, fresh bit of problem emerging in the market. I could be wrong, but, this perhaps may not be as healthy as, we may want to think. For now, there's a well-defined band of 11,340 to 11,450. When the markets respect the range, mid-caps do well. So that is the reason that you've seen the mid-caps do well. So longs will have a stop loss at 11,340. Shorts will have a stop loss at 11,450. Any of the boundaries break, unlikely, then you see perhaps a trending move. And if you have a break on the downside, then 20-day moving average of 11,280 should be support point. Bank Nifty is interesting because yesterday what happened was Kotak and HDFC Bank, the two biggest components, dragged the Bank Nifty by 200 points. And that was the entire Bank Nifty loss. But it's come down very close to its 20-day moving average. Somewhere around 27,600 is that mark. And the range has been 27,740 to 28,050. So on top of yesterday's fall, if you see decline, then perhaps it's a buying opportunity. This is a buy on dips market unless proven otherwise. And for now, the SGX Nifty is actually underperforming. It's down even though other markets are doing well. So let's see how the markets open and whether this range is respected. If this range is respected, then you have a beautiful trade on both sides of this range.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye out on the range. For now, today the banks will be closed because of the Parsi New Year. So no money market cues is what we have for the day. But let's take a look at what our wise experts have to say as we head into trade this morning. Christopher Wood of CLSA says, greed and fear does not believe that a decision by Turkey to close its capital account would be systemic in terms of sending all emerging markets into a tailspin. But he says it would certainly create a lot of noise and dislocation, even though Turkey only represents 3.6% of the JP Morgan global Global Emerging Market Debt Index, while in equity land, it is a minimal 0.5% of the MSCI Emerging Market Index. So hardly, not too much of a worry.
Okay, that's interesting. Of course, no money market cues today, so let's now straight away go to Mangalam for the world view.
Well, a sharp up move on Wall Street yesterday. The Dow, in fact, went higher by almost 400 points after reports that both US and China are likely to blow the peace pipe as far as trade talks are concerned. The Dow Jones posted its highest gain since April 10th when it rose about 430 points. Yesterday ended higher by 396. Any talks on, trade war concerns or any of that directly impacts these stocks which gained yesterday, the likes of Caterpillar, Boeing as well as Cisco. But one stock from the retail perspective which has risen about 9% yesterday was Walmart, because they reported the biggest sales jump in a decade. It contributed about 60 points to Dow Jones' 400-point up move. So that is a big positive. That positivity spread across the Atlantic as well. We saw sharp gains come by on the three frontline European indices. But beneath the surface, the Italian index, that one was down by about 2% after that tragic fall of the bridge. The company which did own that, Atlantia, fell by about 23% after the government will revoke the company's concession after the bridge in Genoa did collapse. Asian markets, most of them in the green as we speak. The SGX Nifty, however, does not share that sentiment, absolutely flat as we speak.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mangalam. Well, tepid start is what the SGX Nifty is indicating. Not been the best reflector, but today the SGX Nifty is also floundering because the money markets are shut. I saw one way out NDF trade on the rupee, which said 71.2 or thereabouts. So, I mean, that's a futures trade. So it should work out to, something like 70, 80. But I think that shouldn't be respected. It was just a way out trade I saw in Reuters. Yesterday, the reality was that it went to 70.32. But in the last half hour, from 4:30 to 5, the Reserve Bank yanked it back to 70.15. Should we factor in more depreciation? And what about the RBI minutes? That would be a further cue for equity markets as well. And therefore, we have a very prominent person from the money markets joining us, Venkat Nageshwar Chalsani, the Deputy Managing Director, Head of Global Markets at State Bank of India. Good morning, Venkat. Thank you very much for joining us on your holiday. But first, tell us about the rupee itself. Are there still long positions? We heard that there was a big long India book and much of it is yet to unwind. So do you think there's more pressure on the rupee?
Yeah, good morning, Lata. The major reasons for the rupee depreciation is on account of the external factors. Of course, it is the trade deficit is also added to this. But having said that, the major concern, what we are looking at, is because of the change in the big figure. That's attracting the attention of most of the both the print and the media. If you look at it, normally the rupee had depreciated by around 1 rupee 30 paisa. But since the big number has changed, it is attracting more attention to all of us. At the moment, the concerns are on account of the external factors, the trade war which is happening between the US and the China, and the depreciation of the Turkish Lira.
Okay, in fact, Venkat, good morning. That was my next question. The Turkey route complicates the RBI's inflation targeting agenda. So do you believe that because of this big sell-off we've seen in emerging market currencies, it may require response and perhaps even, a rate action from the RBI?
Till such time, the depreciation of the rupee does not affect the inflation. I mean, what we are looking at is RBI is in any case smoothening the rupee depreciation. And if it is not going to impact much of the inflation, RBI would not trigger the interest rate action. That's what I've seen.
Okay. What are you factoring in by way of rate hikes at all? No, I'll tell you where Sonia is coming from. There were people who looked at the import number, going to $44 billion, and especially in a whole range of items in July, like steel, chemicals, machine tools, machinery, transport equipment. I mean, across the board, it was 20 to 30% increase. So there was a fear that probably the economy is able to push up prices. It's heating up. And the Reserve Bank may have to therefore use interest rates to cool the economy because of the current account deficit problem. Do you believe that?
So that's what I mean. Basically, these are slightly inflationary, but as long as the inflation does not go beyond a particular level, and since the RBI has already front-loaded the interest rate hike last policy, so therefore I'm looking at the RBI to stay put, watch for some time, and there may not be a rate hike or rate action in October.
Okay, so no rate action in October. Just before we let you go, what about the current account deficit expectations? Because we were speaking to a whole host of experts yesterday. They indicated that a 3% CAD is not unlikely by the end of the year. Are you in that camp as well?
I'm looking at the current account deficit level to be around 2.6%. Because we are looking at FPI flows are drying up, and the way the trade deficit is going up. So I'm looking at 2.6 to 2.65%.
Okay. And Venkat, where do you see Rupee kind of finding its new groove?
I'm looking at somewhere around 70.50 is the resistance level, and hopefully it will not breach. And if it breaches, we look at a change in the big figure of 71 as well.
Okay, and finally...
But 70.5, yeah.
70.5, yeah. Got that. That would be the pivot, that would be the resistance. Okay, what about the bonds? Because there was talk, especially for those who also look at the NDF market, that there is this big long India book. And yesterday, actually, the shorter term yields rose 7 basis points. The 10-year rose, I think, 5 basis points. There was pressure in the shorter term. Will there be more of that? Will we see yields inching up?
There is likelihood of a slightly inching up, but I'm looking at these levels as a good level of value buying. And people who have got a good room in the HTM would pick up these levels. In the domestic banks will be looking to pick up these levels.
Okay, all right, Mr. Chalsani, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your view. So that's the word coming in from SBI. They don't expect any rate action in the month of October, especially because of the depreciation of the rupee. That won't impact inflation, they say. And this morning, the SGX Nifty is absolutely quiet. Let's see, give and take everything, our markets have not been too bad. In an truncated week, we actually ended down about 0.3% up until now for the week, and mid-caps are up almost about 0.5%. Pharma stocks have done the best this week. But our research team is here to give you the list of top 10 stocks to watch as we head into trade this morning. Anuj, what are you looking at today?
So, for starters, Tata Motors. Now, my view on Tata Motors is well documented, but it's a stock which yesterday bounced from 52-week low. So, possible to see a sharp, tradable counter-trend rally on Tata Motors, which takes the stock perhaps towards the 20 and 50-day moving average of 260 to 270, which perhaps would be once again a selling opportunity. But at least there are indications that it's ready, because now everyone is short on Tata Motors. So they're possible to see minor short covering, tradable rally in Tata Motors. NCC is the other one. It's negated a lower top and lower bottom formation, which is very important for a strong stock and strong delivery buying as well yesterday. And one more stock, Biocon. Now, Biocon is a bull market stock which has showed signs of ending the correction at 200-day moving average. So, normally that's a very bullish indicator. Delivery volumes also very high yesterday. So, let's see.
It is also part of the sector which is now in a bit of an upswing. Yeah. It has a huge rupee tailwind as well. Okay, Sonia, Jet Airways has finally announced the date of its results. Yes,
August 27th is when the company will be announcing its result. Remember, the board had deferred the earnings on the 9th of August meeting after the audit committee did not sign it. They did not give reasons for which the results were not signed. So we need more clarity on that. Even if there is a minor green tick today, I don't see any kind of durable rally because the losses for Jet Airways are expected to mount. In fact, last quarter they reported 1,054 crores of losses. This quarter there is an expectation. Edelweiss expects more than a 400 crore loss. Yields will be under pressure due to competition. The key internal which we track is RASK, which is revenue per seat kilometer. That has been declining for them. In FY18 it was down almost about 0.4%. So more pressure expected there. So let's see, there is now more clarity on when the numbers come out, but I don't see a durable rally because of that.
The only worrying part this time around is last time the airline companies went into a tailspin when crude was above 100. Yeah. Now they're going to a tailspin when crude is above 70. So it's a bit of a worry for the sector itself. Ekta, you have a couple of pharma companies on your radar.
Well, yes, absolutely, Lata. You know, we've accessed the Unichem Form 483, which was issued to their Pithampur API unit just a couple of days ago, weeks ago. It was in the month of July. They've been given 4 observations. So that includes cleaning procedures not validated, lab controls not followed and documented at time of performance, etc. At the time that we came to know that there were 4 observations issued in the month of July, the stock was in the red. I expect it to probably be in the red today, reacting to these observations as the company now has to resolve them. Separately, AstraZeneca has received an approval for a cancer drug in India, so that stock should be in the green. We have Cipla, which is in focus on account of its Ugandan subsidiary, which is going to go in for an IPO. So eventual listing would be in the middle of September. The stock was up yesterday, possibly on account of that, and that would be one of the stocks to watch out for.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. So we're going to keep an eye out on some of these pharma names. But more stocks in the news this morning. Sonal is here to give us that list. Sonal?
Good morning, Sonia. I'll start with NBCC because Nomura, that has downgraded the stock from a neutral from a buy, and they've also cut the target price to 82 versus 129 per share earlier. They say that work front availability issues are something that is worrying the brokerage. They also have cut down their FY19 and FY20 EPS estimates by 34 and 37%. After the results, Kotak Institutional Equities has written on Dilip Bilkon. They maintain a buy with a target price of 1,230 rupees. However, they have cut the order inflow estimates to 12,000 crore rupees. They've increased the EPS estimates by 1 to 3%. They also think that the execution is something that will help the company grow its market share. Credit Suisse has also written on Dilip Bilkon. They maintain an outperform rating and expect revenue and EBITDA CAGR of around 20% over next 2 years. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. So here's a quick recap then of our top stocks to watch. Stocks with positive news flow this morning. Tata Motors, NCC, Biocon, AstraZeneca, Aurobindo Pharma, Cipla and Dilip Bilkon. While stocks that have negative news flow or rather could be perhaps in the red, Jet Airways, NBCC, Unichem Laboratories.